In Black gospel churches, paid musicians are standard. In white mega churches, unpaid musicians are standard. There are some large churches that do pay musicians, but the model is actually volunteers. There's lots of reasons for that differentiation.
Not everyone can play a B3 organ.
That's true. If you are looking for
A certain style,
a specialized thing, you're probably going to pay an expert and you have no problem paying them. This is the question that comes up. If you pay an electrician to come in and do electric in your church, you're not asking them, hey, are you saved? What's your Bible reading life like?
You better know 10 verses at least before we pay you.
Your church has a bus and it breaks down, you take it to the mechanic. Hey, do you get drunk sometimes? Because if you do, now, I don't think you have to do that. The reason why it's different is because we're talking about worship. We're talking about the altar. You are leading people. If you're on drums, you are a worship leader. You are leading people into the presence of God.
So I agree with what he's saying, and for the most part. Now, there are some things that, I kind of think, different perspective that people have depending on how you grew up and where you grew up. Some of this stuff is regional, some of this stuff is denominational, in the way that certain people think about this or what have you. And my experience in Black churches, I mean, yes, like how you started out saying, like, in Black churches, it's standard for musicians to be paid. It's not standard. I mean, a lot of Black church musicians do get paid. Now, what they get paid, how much they get paid, and if they're fairly compensated for what they do is a whole different conversation. But in the general sense, like I grew up, Black church, of course. I grew up Baptist. So I didn't start getting paid. I played for the church almost 20 years, like not even 20 years, maybe about 15 years or so, because I started as a little boy. But they didn't start paying me until I became like an adult and I had a family. And they're like, oh shoot, well, this kid does need some money. So they started paying me. And even then it was like $100 a week. You know what I'm saying? So depending on, your upbringing, your denomination, and their beliefs and their structure, there's some pay. And then on the Caucasian or, white church side or what have you, it is true that holistically, at least a lot of the churches that I've moved in, the culture is volunteerism. Like it's just volunteer. It's just, volunteer, like I talked to the worship pastor at the current church that I'm at, and he said all of the musician staff is volunteer. They're not being paid to be up there. So, you kind of look at that, and again, that's cultural. That's all those things like that. And then when you speak to the situation of, because there's this thing war that's been going on for like decades, as long as I can remember, of should a church musician get paid? What if they're getting paid? How much they're getting paid? Why are we paying them? You know what I mean? And my take on it is, if your organization is generating revenue, and you know what I mean about that in terms of revenue. We're not even talking about, because the average church isn't making a whole lot of money, like your average church, because there's so many of them, and church is so oversaturated now that there's not a lot of money in the pool. Now, I know churches that are bringing in millions of dollars a year, and then I know churches that are bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And then I know churches that are only bringing in maybe 5 figures a year. I've talked to those pastors, talked to those leaders, and I know, some of them, their struggles. Some of the pastors are, especially in the Black church, are bivocational. They're not full-time pastors. They work a regular job or run a business on the side, and then, serve the churches on Sunday. That's your average pastor. That's your average church. Now, I do agree that if there are services rendered, there should be payment for those services. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that or inherently evil about that, because like he said, like if it's a electrician, if the air conditioner goes out, AC unit goes out in the church, you will raise an offering to pay that, to pay that bill, but you won't raise an offering to pay that musician, and I know that's not every church's story. And I'm not trying to like blanket the entire church as this and demonize the entire church as this thing that they don't pay musicians. And then you have that argument on one side that people say that, then you have the side of like musicians and worship people that say that they're Levites, and because they're Levites, they should be, taken care of because they serve the temple. And I understand that principle, but we're not actually Levites, and that's a conversation I don't know if you guys are actually even ready to have at this point, but I'll have that on another thing or what have you, whether or not, you know, musicians, modern day musicians are considered Levites. But lifestyle is one of those things that people talk about a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? The lifestyle of the church musician. In Black church, a lot of times the culture is a lot of musicians, they smoke weed. The story time with me, like there was a church I was playing at, won't give the name, won't tell the name of the musicians, but we had a really high service. I'm talking pastor preached, did his thing, man, like went in. And then at the end of that service, you know, it's one of those type things where he just dismisses the people because there's still people at the altar, but I don't want to like hold you guys from going home. We're going to keep ministering to these people at the altar. So he he dismisses, does the benediction, sends everybody home. But then the you know, musicians kind of break. I'm still playing, kind of ministering, you know, just kind of doing the little background thing. I said, I'll keep playing while these people are, you know, getting prayed for and stuff. But the drummer and the bass player and all of that stuff like that, I kind of got in-ears on, so we hear mics and stuff like that. And I'm hearing them, they're talking about, yeah, man, and you got, you know, you got the thing or whatever. And I look back and they got like a bag of like weed Cheetos. And I'm just like, oh, wow. You know, and I'm like 14 feet in front of them is someone that's literally getting prayed for, that's crying. They're praying for them. I don't know the situation or whatever was going on with that, but there's ministry going on at the altar and they are, you know, planning to get high, if not high already. So that is a legitimate thing with, you know, us as Black church musicians. Delving into those type things. But to that, and some people will make that argument of like, well, why are we paying them if they're doing this? They don't deserve to be paid if they do that. Now, I will say this, even though that is a stigma, it's a stereotype. It's just like any other stereotype. It's judging the whole by the part. You know what I'm saying? Which is not fair. You don't judge the whole by the part. You know what I mean? Because I know hundreds of musicians, if not thousands, who live a pretty clean life, who take care of their families, that are just regular smuggler. I'm one. I never smoked anything, never drank, you know what I mean? Never did any kind of drugs, you know, married to one woman for like plus 20 years, never cheated on her, never delved anything. I've lived a pretty whole, clean life, kept my nose clean, as they say. You know, I know tons of musicians that live lives just like me. So that's not like, that's a stereotype and you're judging the part. You're judging the whole by the part and you don't want to do that. You all want to thank you for making it to the end of this video. First of all, thank you for watching to the end. If you made it to the end, make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button, drop a comment, let me know what you think about everything that I've talked about. And make sure you check out the Patreon link down below. Hop over there for some exclusive content. All right. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. I'm out. Holla at your boy.